Support WrestleTalk!
Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk Reactive News. I am Randy Andy Datson and this is a recently underported Tempest.
I've been gone for 2 weeks and I come back and Raw is good?
Yeah, it's good. Triple H is here. I'm sorry about all the drugs that you were trying to smuggle. It's a sticky situation, but yes, Raw is good, sort of. It's fine. It's better than it was. It's better than it was, and there are little bits of pieces which are hopeful, like Dexter Lumis coming back and it actually being a cool storyline, but we shall see. Someone who might not be coming back, but someone who might be debuting for another company, AEW in this instance, is Kota Ibushi. Now, I can already see that the table has risen a little bit.
I'm just happy to see you.
Quite excited about this, Tempest. So this was in response to a fan on Twitter. Kota Ibushi basically just said that he at least once wants to wrestle in AEW. Now, what are your initial thoughts and feelings and erections on this?
Well, Kota Ibushi is a very interesting topic because he hasn't been in New Japan since being injured in the G1 Climax last year, separated his shoulder. He's been out for about a year, but he's also had a lot of very complex behind-the-scenes stuff that we really don't know to what extent is actually causing him to miss time at this point. But he's always been one of those figures that seems like he would be a perfect fit in AEW, whether that be full-time or just coming over for a match or two, because of his extensive history with Kenny Omega. Now, of course, they were the Golden Lovers. Their story dates back to 2008 in DDT, another promotion that AEW has a lot of history with that they could pull footage from. And now with the possibility of him coming to AEW, or at least putting forth the idea of wanting to do a match for AEW, it opens up a lot of storyline possibilities, because who did he say that he would like to face?
Adam Page.
A man that he has wrestled once before.
Yeah, I remember, but tell me about it.
He wrestled Adam Page at Supercard of Honor in 2018. This is back when they were doing the whole Bullet Club Civil War, when Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi were getting back together and Cody Rhodes wasn't happy with it. Hangman Page wrestled Kota Ibushi on that show and Kota Ibushi beat him. Now, of course, he's gotten a lot better since then. In the last 4 years, Hangman Page has become one of the top wrestlers in the whole world, and Kota Ibushi now will have a much different stance on whatever kind of match or storyline they end up having, because of course this is now 4 years or 3.5 years since he last worked with Kenny Omega directly, and there's so many different possibilities there, and I can only imagine that that match will only be that much better.
Yeah, and he said in this kind of mini Q&A session that he did on Twitter that the reason he would want to go is because there are lots of kind of expectations in AEW. Now, I don't know whether this means there are 3 times of expectations or there's 3 times as much expectation, but he said, I can't promise that the card will be set up correctly, but lovers can.
Ooh.
So I guess it would make sense for him to come back in a special tag match, or for him to come back at Next Forbidden Door, something like that. Like you say, he hasn't really appeared for anyone since all that kind of controversy in around January. Was it early this year? Or
it was earlier this year at some point. I couldn't nail down the exact time frame. But yes, you would have to imagine that Kota Ibushi coming to AEW would not be for any other reason than being involved in a Kenny Omega related storyline.
Yeah.
Just because Kenny Omega is the top star of AEW, or one of them anyway. And even though Kota Ibushi could absolutely be one of those top stars as well in his own right, they're so intrinsically linked to one another that it would feel very odd if he showed up and they didn't go in that direction. And thankfully now, with Kenny Omega potentially coming back very soon and the Young Bucks and Hangman Page storyline heating up already, there would be even more different directions that they could go and great matches that they could have, and hopefully that would appease everyone involved.
Because there have been a lot of Japanese guys coming over from either New Japan for a special appearance where you're like, oh cool, they're going to face this person. Or you could kind of bring over someone like Minoru Suzuki and be like,
sure,
oh, he can face anyone because he's Minoru Suzuki. But if you're going to bring over Kota Ibushi, it kind of has to be, like you say, in something like a Kenny Omega feud or a Kenny Omega tag team run. What if it's over 2 nights?
Oh, no. Do lead on, Andy.
So this comes from Dustin Rhodes, who spoke at Terrificon, and he discussed the possibility of AEW heading to the United Kingdom and also the idea that there might be 2-night pay-per-views at some point down the line. In regards to the UK, he said, UK, our television in the UK is doing well. Tony's soccer team, which is, for those who don't know, is Fulham Football Club, is right there and he wants to run Craven Cottage, which is their stadium. Probably 40 to 50,000 people. I guarantee it would sell out. Will we sell out United States stadiums? It's growth. It takes time to make these things happen. It's not going to happen overnight, but we will get there. Hopefully someday, like Chicago United Center, we will smack it out and it's 19,000 people. Do you not feel that AEW with enough hype could sell out a 19,000 seater already?
I think they could.
Especially in Chicago.
I think they could. I think it all depends on the circumstances, on the card, on the right amount of build-up. Because we saw, like, the first year that they were in existence, if they put on the first All Out at a stadium, they could have sold it out. Just because the demand for tickets was there. Now, obviously, it's different for your first or second pay-per-view than it would be for a show 3 or 4 years in. I don't know how different it is.
Dustin also continued to say, if we did go to a stadium show, I hope that we would do well for Double or Nothing or All Out. Do I know if it's going to sell out? I have no idea. I would hope so, but we don't need to do those all the time. You have these arenas that are just fine. I think we're going to do 2-day events now for pay-per-views. I believe I've heard that down the pike. It'll be like a WrestleMania experience. You have 2 days of Double or Nothing or 2 days of All Out or Revolution.
No.
Some shows, like a WrestleMania, I do think work as a 2-night show. However, I don't know whether AEW is ready for that quite yet.
I just don't like them.
No?
I don't like them. You know, like WrestleMania, I think we have a perception of the WrestleMania 2-night thing working because we got so used to seeing the other option, which was an 8.5-hour show.
Yeah.
In which I think there is a great middle ground there where you do WrestleMania one night for 5 hours and you just make it a great show. But I don't think that obviously I'm not in AEW's business department. Update on that as soon as I do join that team, of course. But it just seems like it would split the interest of these shows between 2 nights. And I'm sure they would do a deal with Fight or Bleacher Report where you could pay for both shows at once on a deal and do something there. But we've seen it with like Wrestle Kingdom 2. And granted, that's more of a booking choice than anything else. But splitting it between 2 shows just kind of dilutes both shows a lot of the time. Now, AEW has an incredible roster where they could absolutely put on 2 major pay-per-view events on back-to-back nights, but I think that will just lead to burnout from fans that much faster, and we're getting more and more and more AEW content, which is a good thing. But I worry that double pay-per-views will be too much. There are ways that you could make this work theoretically, but I think it is still a risk. And I don't know how many risks like that AEW needs to take right now when their pay-per-views are doing well.
One thing that isn't doing well, unfortunately, however, was this past weekend's Battle of the Belts 3. Now, it's always been one of the, I would say, smaller specials.
Yeah.
But this past weekend's show is the worst of all 3 of the Battle of the Belts specials. Now, it pulled in 437,000 viewers on average over the time it was on, which is lower than Battle of the Belts 2, which was 527, and much lower than Battle of the Belts 1 earlier in January this year, which got 704,000. Are there too many specials, or is it just a fact that the cards of the specials aren't as exciting as they once were?
I think it's a little bit of both. When you're asking your audience already to watch Dynamite and Rampage, and you've got a special episode of Dynamite seemingly every other week. Like, we've got an AEW World Championship match on TV this week. And I'm sorry, but I love watching Claudio and Takeshita for the ROH World Championship, but just from a promotional standpoint, it feels like a step down. And when it feels like a step down, all of a sudden, then it feels like it might be missable.
Yeah.
Now, I watched it. I greatly enjoyed the show. I thought from open to close, it was probably the best Battle of the Belts. But at the same time, they're trying to make Battle of the Belts be like their Clash of the Champions back in the old NWA and WCW days, of course, on a much smaller scale, where this one's only an hour long. But those shows were sold and made famous on the backs of matches like Ric Flair and Sting. Yeah. And we haven't gotten a Ric Flair and Sting level match on a Battle of the Belts yet. And I think it will take a match like that to really make these shows feel important and feel significant and feel must-see.
It feels like the the whole year is over diluted slightly with these shows because there always has to be someone to face the champion, and therefore no one really has enough time to build up, especially for these women's belts, which are historically not built to as much as the men's ones.
Yeah, the matches on the Battle of the Belts cards all kind of feel like placeholder title matches. They're not the big title match that gets built to over a long period of time. And if they did like a 6-week build to one of these Battle of the Belts with a major title match, I think that would do a lot better. Because otherwise, like, what have people really missed by not watching Battle of the Belts? They've missed some great matches, but
nothing really.
Storyline wise, like Sammy Guevara won the interim TNT title back in January. That's it. Like, there haven't been other major moments on these shows, so.
What a moment. If you'd like this show, this reactive news, to put in a good rating, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it with all your friends. But for now, I have been Randy Annie Datson. This has been
Tempest.
And that was reactive news. Jam that jam.